and say, devil follow corpse, cat follow devil, words follow cat. I'm done with ya. That will fetch any word. Sounds right. Do you ever try it, Huck? No, but old Mother Hopkins told me. Well, I reckon it so. Then, because they say she's a witch. Say why, Tom? I know she is. She witched Pap. Pap says so his own self. He come along one day, and he see she was a witching him. So he took up a rock, and if she hadn't dodged, he will got her. Well, that very night he rolled off in a shed, where he was laying drunk, and broke his arm. Why, that's awful. How did he know she was a-witching him? Lord Pap can tell easy. Pap says, when they keep looking at you right steady, they're a-witching you, especially if they mumble. Because when they mumble, they are saying the Lord's Prayer backwards. Say, Hucky, when you going to try the cat? Tonight. I reckon they will come after old Hoss Williams tonight. But they buried him Saturday. Didn't they get him Saturday night? Why? How you talk? How could their charms work till midnight? And then it's Saturday. Devils don't slash around much of a Sunday. I don't reckon. I never thought of that. That's so. Let me go with you. Of course, if you ain't afeard. Afeard? Tain't likely, will you meow? Yes, and you meow back if you get a chance. Last time you keep me meowing around till old Hayes went to throwing rocks at me and says, darn that cat, and so I hove a brick through his window. But don't you tell. I won't. I couldn't meow that night because Auntie was watching me. But I will meow this time. Say, what's that? Nothing but a tick? Where did you get him? Out in the woods. What will you take for him? I don't know. I don't want to sell him. All right. It's a mighty small tick anyway. Anybody can run a tick down that don't belong to them. I'm satisfied with it. It's a good enough tick for me. So, there's ticks aplenty. I could have thousands of them if I wanted to. Well, why don't you? Because you know mighty well you can't. There's a pretty early tick, I reckon. It's the first one I have seen this year. Say, Huck, I will give you my tooth for him. Let's see it. Tom got out a bit of paper and carefully unrolled it. Huckleberry viewed it wistfully. The temptation was very strong. At last, he said, is it genuine? Tom lifted his lip and showed the vacancy. Well, all right, said Huckleberry, it's a trade. Tom enclosed the tick in the percussion cap box that had lately been the pinch box prison, and the boys separated, each feeling wealthier than before. When Tom reached the little isolated frame schoolhouse, he strode in briskly, with the manner of one who had come with all on a speed. He hung his hat on a peg and flung himself into his seat with businesslike alacrity. The master, thrown on high in his great splint-bottom armchair, was dozing, lulled by the drowsy hum of study. The interruption roused him. Thomas Sawyer. Tom knew that when his name was pronounced in full, it meant trouble. Sir, come up here. Now, sir, why are you late again, as usual? Tom was about to take refuge in a lie, when he saw two long nails of yellow hair hanging down a back that he recognized by the electric sympathy of love, and by that form was the only vacant place on the girls' side of the schoolhouse. He instantly said, I stopped to talk with Huckleberry Finn. The master's pulse stood still, and he stared helplessly. The buzz of study ceased. The pupils wondered if this foolhardy boy had lost his mind. The master said, You did what? Stop to talk, Huckleberry Finn. There was no mistaking the words. Thomas Sawyer, this is the most astounding confession I have ever listened to. No mere ferule will answer for this offense. Take off your jacket. The master's arm performed until it was tired and the stock of switches notably diminished. Then the order followed. Now, sir, Go and sit with the girls, and let this be a warning to you." The titter that rippled around the room appeared to abash the boy, but in reality that result was caused rather more by his worshipful awe of his unknown idol, and the dread pleasure that lay in his high good fortune. He sat down upon the end of the pine bench, and the girl hitched herself away from him with a toss of her head. Nudges and winks and whispers traversed the room, but Tom sat still with his arms upon the long, low desk before him, and seemed to study his book. By and by, attention ceased from him, and the accustomed school murmur rose upon the dull air once more. Presently the boy began to steal furtive glances at the girl. She observed it, made a mouth at him, and gave him the back of her head for the space of a minute. When she cautiously faced around again, a peach lay before her. She thrust it away. Tom gently put it back. She thrust it away again, but with less animosity. Tom patiently returned it to its place. Then she let it remain. Tom scrawled on his slate, "Please take it, I got more." The girl glanced at the words, but made no sign. Now the boy began to draw something on the slate, hiding his work with his left hand. For a time the girl refused to notice, but her human curiosity presently began to manifest itself by hardly perceptible signs. The boy worked on, apparently unconscious. The girl made a sort of non-committal attempt to see, but the boy didn't betray that he was aware of it. At last she gave in and hesitatingly whispered, "Let me see it." Tom partly uncovered a dismal caricature of a house, with two gable ends to it and a corkscrew of smoke issuing from the chimney. Then the girl's interest began to fasten itself upon the work, and she forgot everything else. When it was finished, she gazed a moment, then whispered, "It's nice, make a man." The artist erected a man in the front yard that resembled a derrick. He could have stepped over the house, but the girl was not hypercritical. She was satisfied with the monster, and whispered, "It's a beautiful man. Now make me coming along." Tom drew an hourglass with a full moon and straw limbs to it, and armed the spreading fingers with a portentous fan. The girl said, "It's ever so nice. I wish I could draw." "It's easy," whispered Tom. "I will learn you." "Oh, will you? When?" "At noon. Do you go home to dinner?" "I will stay, if you will." "Good. That's a whack. What's your name?" "Becky Thatcher." "What's yours?" I know. It's Thomas Sawyer." "That's the name they lick me by. I'm Tom when I'm good." "You call me Tom, will you?" "Yes." Now Tom began to scrawl something on the slate, hiding the words from the girl, but she was not backward this time. She begged to see. Tom said, "It ain't anything." "Yes, it is." "No, it ain't. You don't want to see." "Yes, I do. Indeed I do. Please let me." "You will tell." "No, I won't." Deed and double deed won't." "You won't tell anybody at all? Ever as long as you live?" "No, I won't ever tell anybody. Now let me." You don't want to see." "Now that you treat me so, I will see," and she put her small hand upon his, and a little scuffle ensued, Tom pretending to resist in earnest, but letting his hand slip by degrees till these words were revealed, "I love you." "Oh, you bad thing," and she hit his hand a smart drop, but redeemed and looked pleased nevertheless. Just at this juncture, the boy felt a slow, fateful grip closing on his ear, and a steady lifting impulse. In that wise he was borne across the house and deposited in his own seat, under a peppering fire of giggles from the whole school. Then the master stood over him during a few awful moments, and finally moved away to his throne without saying a word. But although Tom's ear tingled, his heart was jubilant. As the school quieted down, Tom made an honest effort to study, but the turmoil within him was too great. In turn, he took his place in the reading class and made a botch of it. Then in the geography class, and turned lakes into mountains, mountains into rivers, and rivers into continents, till chaos was come again. Then in the spelling class and got torn down by a succession of mere baby words, till he brought up the foot and yielded up the pewter medal, which he had worn with ostentation for months. Chapter 7. The harder Tom tried to fasten his mind on his book, the more his ideas wandered. So at last, with a sigh and a yawn, he gave it up. It seemed to him that the noon recess would never come. The air was utterly dead. There was not a breath stirring. It was the sleepiest of sleepy days. The drowsing murmur of the 25 studying scholars suited the soul like the spell that is in the murmur of bees. Away off, in the flaming sunshine, Cardiff Hill lifted its soft green sides through a shimmering veil of heat, tinted with purple of distance. A few birds floated on a lazy wing high in the air, and no other living thing was visible but some cows, and they were asleep. Tom's heart ached to be free, or else to have something of interest to do to pass the dreary time. His hand wandered into his pocket, and his face lit up with a glow of gratitude that was prayer, though he didn't know it. Then furtively the precision cap box came out. He released the tick and put him on the long flat desk. The creature probably glowed with a gratitude that amounted to prayer too, at this moment, but it was premature, for when he started thankfully to travel off, Tom turned him aside with a pin and made him take a new direction. Tom's bosom friend sat next him, suffering just as Tom had been, and now he was deeply and gratefully interested in this entertainment in an instant. This bosom friend was Joe Harper. The two boys were sworn friends all the week and embattled enemies on Saturdays. Joe took a pin out of his lapel and began to assist in exercising the prisoner. The sport grew in interest momently. Soon Tom said that they were interfering with each other, and neither getting the fullest benefit of the tick. So he put Joe's slate on the desk and drew a line down the middle of it from top to bottom. Now, said he, as long as he is on your side, you can stir him up, and I will let him alone. But if you let him get away and get on my side, you are to leave him alone as long as I can keep him from crossing over. All right, go ahead, start him up. The tick escaped from Tom presently and crossed the equator. Joe harassed him a while, and then he got away and crossed back again. This change of pace occurred often. While one boy was worrying the tick with absorbing interest, the other would look on with interest as strong. The two heads bowed together over the slate, and the two souls that to all things else. At last luck seemed to settle and abide with Joe. The tick tried this, that, and the other course, and got as excited and as anxious as the boys themselves. But time and again, just as he would have victory in his very grasp, so to speak, and Tom's fingers would be twitching to begin, Joe's pin would deftly head him off, and kept possession. At last Tom could stand it no longer. The temptation was too strong, so he reached out and lent a hand with his pin. Joe was angry in a moment. Said he, "Tom, you let him alone. I only just want to stir him up a little, Joe." "No, sir, it ain't fair. You just let him alone." "Blame it, I ain't going to stir him much. Let him alone, I tell you." "I won't." "You shall. He's on my side of the line." "Look here, Joe Harper, who is that tick?" "I don't care whose tick he is." He's on my side of the line, and you shan't touch him." "Well, I just bet I will, though. He's my tick, and I will do what I blame plays with him or die." A tremendous whack came down on Tom's shoulders, and its duplicate on Joe's, and for the space of 2 minutes the dust continued to fly from the two jackets and the whole school to enjoy it. The boys had been too absorbed to notice the hush that had stolen upon the school a while before when the master came tiptoeing down the room and stood over them. He had contemplated a good part of the performance before he contributed his bit of variety to it. When school broke up at noon, Tom flew to Becky Thatcher and whispered in her ear, "Put on your bonnet and let on you are going home, and when you get to the corner, give the rest of them the slip and turn down through the lane and come back. I will go the other way and come it over them the same way." So the one went off with one group of scholars, and the other with another. In a little while the two met at the bottom of the lane. When they reached the school, they had it all to themselves. Then they sat together with a slate before them, and Tom gave Becky the pencil and held her hand in his, guiding it, and so created another surprising house. When the interest in art began to wane, the two fell to talking. Tom was swimming in bliss. He said, "Do you love rats?" "No, I hate them." "Well, I do too." Live once. But I mean that once to swing round your head with a string. No, I don't care for rats much anyway. What I like is chewing gum. I should say so. I wish I had some now. Do you? I've got some. I will let you chew it a while, but you must give it back to me. That was agreeable, so they chewed it, turned about, and dangled their legs against the bench in excess of contentment. "Was you ever at a circus?" said Tom. "Yes, and my pa's going to take me again sometime if I'm good. I've been to the circus 3 or 4 times, lots of times. Church ain't shucks to a circus. There's things going on at a circus all the time. I'm going to be a clown in a circus when I grow up." "Oh, are you? That will be nice. They're so lovely, all spotted up." "Yes, that's so. And they get slathers of money. Most $1 a day." Ben Rogers say, "Becky, was you ever engaged?" "What's that?" "Why, engaged to be married." "No. Would you like to?" "I reckon so. I don't know. What is it like?" "Like, why it ain't like anything. You only just tell a boy you won't ever have anybody but him. Ever, ever, ever. And then you kiss and that's all. Anybody can do it." "Kiss? What do you kiss for?" "Why, that, is to, well, they always do that, everybody." "Why, yes, everybody that's in love with each other. Do you remember what I wrote on the slate?" "Yeah, yes." "What was it?" "I shan't tell you." "Shall I tell you?" "Yeah, yes, but some other time." "No, now." "No, not now. Tomorrow." "Oh no, no, please, Becky. I will whisper it. I will whisper it ever so easy." Becky, hesitating, Tom took silence for consent, and passed his arm about her waist and whispered the tale ever so softly, with his mouth close to her ear, and then he added, "Now you whisper it to me, just the same." She resisted for a while, and then said, "You turn your face away so you can't see, and then I will. But you mustn't ever tell anybody. Will you, Tom? Now you won't, will you?" "No, indeed. Indeed I won't. Now, Becky." He turned his face away. She went timidly around till her breath stirred his curls and whispered, "I love you." Then she sprang away and ran around and around the desks and benches, which Tom after her, and took refuge in a corner at last, with her little white apron to her face. Tom clasped her about her neck and pleaded, "Now, Becky, it's all done. All over but the kiss. Don't you afraid of that. It ain't anything at all. Please, Becky," and he tugged at her apron and the hands. By and by she gave up, and let her hands drop. Her face, all glowing with the struggle, came up and submitted. Tom kissed the red lips and said, "Now it's all done, Becky, and always after this, you ain't ever to love anybody but me, and you ain't ever to marry anybody but me. Ever, never, and forever, will you?" "No, I will never love anybody but you, Tom, and I will never marry anybody but you." "And you ain't to ever marry anybody but me either." "Certainly, of course, that's part of it, And always coming to school or when we are going home, you are to walk with me. When there ain't anybody looking, and you choose me and I choose you at parties, because that's the way you do when you are engaged. It's so nice. I never heard of it before. Ah, it's ever so gay. Why me and Emmy Lawrence? The big eyes told Tom his blunder and he stopped, confused. Ah, Tom, then I ain't the first you have ever been engaged to. The child began to cry. Tom said, "Oh, don't cry, Becky. I don't care for her anymore." "Yes, you do, Tom. You know you do." Tom tried to put his arm about her neck, but she pushed him away and turned her face to the wall and went on crying. Tom tried again, with soothing words in his mouth, and was repulsed again. Then his pride was up, and he strode away and went outside. He stood about, restless and uneasy for a while, glancing at the door every now and then, hoping she would repent and come to find him. But she did not. Then he began to feel badly, and feared that he was in the wrong. It was a hard struggle with him to make new advances, now, but he nerved himself to it and entered. She was still standing back there in the corner, sobbing, with her face to the wall. Tom's heart smote him. He went to her and stood a moment, not knowing exactly how to proceed. Then he said hesitatingly, "Becky, I don't care for anybody but you." No reply, but sobs. Becky, pleadingly, "Becky, won't you say something?" More sobs. Tom got out his chiefest jewel, a brass knob from the top of an andiron, and passed it around her so that she could see it, and said, "Please, Becky, won't you take it?" She struck it to the floor. Then Tom marched out of the house and over the hills and far away, to return to school no more that day. Presently Becky began to suspect.